Advocacy is easy when you're the one taking the lead to support someone else. But advocacy that truly empowers another person, respects their dignity, and prepares them to stand on their own, that's an entirely different challenge. The real goal of advocacy is creating mutual respect between the person who needs support and the person empowered to give it. Not from pity or pressure, but from partnership. In today's episode, I want to talk about why stepping back is actually the end goal of advocacy. Not abandoning, not walking away, but building the trust, skills, and confidence that allows someone to speak effectively for themselves.
Hi, I'm Dr. Theresa Haskins, and welcome to Think Differently, the podcast that challenges the status quo and explores the power of neurodiversity to create a more inclusive and accessible world. Together, we will talk about everything from the value of different perspectives to the limitless potential of human beings. We'll explore how embracing differences can lead to endless possibilities and how you can maximize strengths to make a positive impact on the world. So sit back, relax, and join me as we get ready to think differently.
Welcome, everyone. Glad that you're tuning in today. I came down with a cold this week, so I apologize for my voice in advance. The last few episodes have focused on the parental side of advocacy, how we help neurodivergent youth. And over the next few episodes, I'm going to keep digging into this area that seems to be resonating with so many of you. I was recently invited to speak at an ADHD teen advocacy event. And when I was preparing my remarks, I was hyper-focused on all the ways we can help advocate for our teens. But in the moment, through the dialogue, reflection, and just the way my brain loves to puzzle and pattern seek, I realized something. Beyond advocacy, what are we really trying to do? Today, I want to talk about why stepping back is actually the end goal of advocacy, and honestly, the end goal of parenthood. When you're an advocate for an adult, an inclusive employment advocate or parental advocate, which is today's focus because it's the easiest to map literally, we need to examine what advocacy is and isn't. When we need to be external advocates, which is usually the role of an advocate, parent, advocacy group, some other third party, and when it really needs to pivot and become individual advocacy. Being an advocate can be supportive, but over time, it can also become disabling. So we have to walk this very intricate rope so we don't promote ableist attitudes or create dependency. This is a hard one because I struggle with it too. Now, I know the theories of advocacy. I understand motivational theories, intrinsic and extrinsic, developmental methodologies, parenting skills, and I share this list because if we only look at this from one of these schools of thought, we'll keep getting it wrong. But if we look at it all together, we can really come up with some strong solutions. I know how to advocate for someone and for myself. That's actually the easy part. The hard part is empowering someone else to learn how to advocate for themselves so that you're not always the advocate. And this is hard if you always have been the advocate. In some ways, I'm talking to parents, but managers do this at a micro level all the time. We know we should support others to do the work, but actually doing that rather than just doing it ourselves is actually a lot harder. It's like exercise. We all know we should move our bodies more, but knowing and doing it are two different things. When it comes to parenting, teaching, or supporting neurodivergent teens and young adults, advocacy does mean speaking up and pushing forward to make sure a person gets what they need. But the end goal isn't doing all the talking for them. It's laying the groundwork so in time, the individual who needs the support can speak for themselves. That shift from stepping in to stepping back, knowing when to coach and when to let them learn from their own opportunities is one of the toughest transitions we face as parents and educators. Stepping back doesn't mean abandoning someone. It doesn't mean letting them flail or fail. It does mean not going straight to fight mode or I've got this, let me handle it. As your child moves from early teens to late teens to early adulthood, we have to be much more intentional in our communication and how we engage others while we're advocating for supports. In the disability community, we often say nothing about us without us. Maybe you had to speak for your child at the ages of 3, 5, 8, or 10. But when we get to 13, 15, 18, 21 years of age, they need to be part of that conversation. And over time, they need to be leading those conversations where you're there as a supplemental support, not the primary communicator. That builds trust and capability, not just for the person we're caring for, but also for the person we seek to support them. Otherwise, we risk sending the message, "You can't," which damages the relationships with teachers, professors, and potentially employers, and it diminishes their developing sense of self. If you're neurodivergent yourself, you'll feel this too. And we all need to ask ourselves, would you want your spouse to go to your boss on your behalf? Saying that just sounds absurd, but parents do the parallel version of this all the time. Something goes wrong and they immediately ask, "Who's your teacher? What's the problem?" And they go in ready to fight. That's counterproductive to building an effective relationship between the teacher and the student, which the parent is actually not part of that relationship. And teaching the student how to communicate their needs and earning respect for the student is ultimately our goal. We don't want educators or teachers or employers just being nice to our kids because they're afraid of us. So this setup and transition really needs to start in high school. Late high school is when families are still in IEP meetings because students are minors. Parental advocacy is expected. But when you get to college, that door closes fast on parents. Even with forms and legal documents in place, the system expects the student to take the lead because they are ultimately the benefactor. They are ultimately responsible. So instead of throwing them into the deep end as soon as they transition to college or the workplace, we should be building this capability before they're of legal age. Before your next IEP meeting this year, talk with your teen about what works and what doesn't work. What helped last year? What didn't get used? When were you happy, challenged, struggling? Have that conversation before you're in front of the teachers and administrators. In the meeting, direct questions to your student. Don't talk past them. Don't talk for them. If teachers and administrators talk to you, gently defer to the student and say, "Can you share how you felt?" When they stumble, you can support them. But the act of trying to build trust in themselves shows that you trust in them too. Parents, you also model the tone. If you enter a meeting ready to fight, your child learns that as the default, that instead of this being a conversation, this is always going to be a hard conversation, and it doesn't have to be. I know I've said fight in my TED Talk because sometimes we do need to fight, but that shouldn't happen as the opening gambit. When the year is new, the team is new, the teacher is new, the employer is new, we need to treat it as an opportunity and not start immediately that they are an adversary. You can acknowledge history without weaponizing it. You can say, in the past, we've had these difficulties. How can we set things up for success this year? See how that frames collaboration rather than blame? It's like dating after a divorce. It's really not fair to treat a new person like your ex. You can say, these are things that happened to me, and I don't want them to happen again, without coming in with an accusatory tone with somebody who actually didn't afflict that problem. Start every school year with the aim to build a network of communication and trust, not a default to demands and adversarial standoffs. Then, when it comes to college, where the expectation flips overnight, at 18, parents are legally out unless the student pulls you in. Professors and disability services will not talk to you directly without the student's consent and full participation. And this is why early scaffolding matters. Coach your student before meetings. Role play what they should say and debrief afterward. If they weren't included in earlier IEPs, now's the time to start. You'll contact Disability Services. They're going to ask about your needs. You need to articulate them. If you want me involved, you need to bring me in because I can't do it for you. The meeting itself should be theirs. Ownership is the muscle we're trying to build here. And this is all critical because in employment, tolerance for parental involvement and third-party caretakers is essentially zero. Not many managers or HR partners want to hear from parents. Preparation for this stage has to happen long before that first interview. Practice scenarios, role-play asking for what helps, saying things like, I work best with clear written instructions, or I need a quieter space, it helps me focus, or could we share notes after meetings? We say these things out loud with confidence, and over time it builds confidence. And after a positive response, yes, we can do that. That muscle is strengthened. Also notice that how I position these needs came from a place of positivity, not a deficit-minded view. I never said I couldn't do anything. I told you what I needed to succeed. And that's what every teacher, professor, and employer wants to hear. And so by the time they're employed, we want these conversations to feel natural, not like special asks, but learning how to frame, this is how I best work. And our role is to equip them to do that. There's also an inner layer of self-trust that needs to be built in here. Advocacy isn't only about others. It's about trusting in yourself too. If you're neurodivergent, you may know to ask for help. You may know that you need to set up boundaries and speak up, and you may still find it really hard to do. That knowing-doing gap is real, especially if we've hit walls in the past. But I'm telling you, if we rush into fight mode with the systems we're navigating or with ourselves, we won't model the intentional communication our kids need to really succeed. And if we rescue them too soon, we interfere with the process and unintentionally send the message, I don't trust you to do this. Real advocacy means stepping back enough to build trust within the system with the person we're asking support from, be it the professor, teacher, or manager, and most importantly, with the person who needs the support. Right now, many families are in this season, right now. Teens in new high schools, students in college, first internships, new jobs. The phrase to hold on to is, how can I be set up for success? It's one of the most powerful ways to frame the need for an accommodation. So rather than saying, I have a problem, you need to support me, reframe it as, I'm excited to be here and I could use your help setting me up for success. You feel the difference in that? So it's not, I have a disability, so I need a quiet workspace. It's, I can focus and produce more in a quiet area. We don't want to say, hey, boss, your meetings are so disorganized, but rather, could I use a note-taking app so I can share quick meeting minutes afterward? And we don't want to come at somebody and saying, I can't handle unclear timelines or I have executive functioning issues, but rather say, I do my best work with clear deadlines so I don't miss them. When we frame needs in ways that show positive outcomes and enhance productivity, people are more likely to engage with that request because that's what educators and managers want, engagement. If a student says, if I can get notes ahead of time, I'll be more likely to participate in class, most professors will say yes. You're not asking for a favor, you're aligning supports with optimum educational performance. So first, we frame the need. Then we build the skills, practice, scaffold, and reinforce. And everyone, if we do this well, and we give our charges the tools they need to succeed, we can step back with confidence and watch the people we love speak effectively for themselves.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Think Differently. I hope you found our discussion today insightful and thought-provoking. I want to thank Audio Work Studios for their exceptional production and recording support. Without their expertise and dedication, this podcast would not be possible. If you enjoyed this episode, we encourage you to share it with others. Your support helps us to reach new audiences and promote neurodiversity in our world. Also, be sure to subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite platform so that you can stay up to date on the latest episodes. We look forward to seeing you again soon on Think Differently.